On today's show, how did we even get here? It wasn't ever supposed to be this bad for the Dallas Mavericks. But we are, and I'll tell you, today's Locked On Mavs.
This is Cooper Flagg, and you're listening to Locked On Mavs.
Dog 5.
Explain yourself.
All these changes, I still got my dog Dwight Powell.
You are Locked On Mavs, your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Still can't leave.
Your team every day.
I'm going to get a city like that.
And welcome. You're locked on to the Dallas Mavericks, your team every day. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member covering the Mavs for 10 years. Thanks for being every day or making Locked On Mavs your first listen each and every day and making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network out there. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 if your bet wins. You get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Today's episode, I want to talk about why the Mavericks offense is so bad, breaking it down, why it's different than it was last year. We'll talk about some of the big things the Mavs are doing this year that it's just so bad. Jason Kidd said that they're just missing shots. How true is that? Diving into some of the numbers on that. And then I went back and I looked at a bunch of our predictions from before the season. I was like, how did we even get here? We had such high hopes, or at least we had such mediocre hopes for the Dallas Mavericks, and it's even worse than we could have even anticipated. So I'm going to go through some of the predictions we got really wrong already, like 8 games, 10% of the way through the season. Well, let's start here. How did we get here? Because the Dallas Mavericks are 2-6. They've had this pretty easy schedule if you look at it. Played the Wizards, played the Pelicans without Zion. They've played the Pacers in their current state. They've played the Raptors, and they're still trying to figure things out. They have not had that hard of a schedule. They've only played one actual road game and one game in Mexico City. They have not had a very tough schedule at all. They have had injuries. Anthony Davis has missed multiple games. Dereck Lively has missed multiple games. Obviously, no Kyrie. Still no Dante Exum, and no even word about anything about Dante Exum and if he's ever going to play. And so you're like, all right, well, they've had some issues. Okay, sure. But 30th in the NBA in offense. Dead absolute freaking last. The Mavs, this stat is just blowing my mind still. I posted this the other day, and I talked about it on the post-game show with Slightly. If you missed that one, go listen to that one. An all-timer, maybe, with me and him. The Mavs, in the NBA, there have been 17 games where teams have an offensive rating under 101 points. League average right now is 115.3. League average 115.3. There have been 17 games, only 17 games, where an NBA team has posted an offensive rating, meaning points scored per 100 possessions. So it's just like an efficiency stat. Under 101. The Mavs have 6 of them now. 6 of the 17. 6 of the 17. No other team has more than 2. The Wizards have 2. The Pelicans have 2. The Pacers have 2. The Mavs have played all 3 of those teams. They lost to 2 of them. The Mavs actually won one of these games. They're the only team to actually win one of these games where they have an offensive rating under 101, and that was the Pacers game. So even though they won that game, their offense was still atrocious. And they just won because the Pacers were just as atrocious as they were. Now, the Mavs defense has actually been fine. And it kind of been a strength. I did go through the schedule, and they haven't played the strongest teams for sure. But the Mavs are 6th in the NBA in defense. Their goal was to be top 3. We were like, all right, if they got to be at least top 10 and have like a average or okay offense, and they'll be fine this year. And then we'll wait till Kyrie comes back, and maybe they can do something special. Cooper Flagg takes a really big step forward during the season. Dereck Lively takes a step forward. Anthony Davis stays healthy. We're like, all right, well, then the Mavericks will be all right. None of those things have happened. None of those things have happened. The Mavs defense has been good. Their offense has been so atrociously bad that it makes absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense. How bad it is. So let's go through. How did we get here? All right. Jason Kidd said the other night after the Pelicans game, well, we're just missing shots. We're getting good looks. We just gotta knock down some of these shots. All right. I said this stat yesterday. Effective field goal percentage takes into account that 3 is more than 2, and so it puts it all together and says, all right, what is your field goal percentage considering 2s and 3s together? 50% what the Mavs are shooting right now. That's 29th in the NBA. Almost dead last. So bad. They're not shooting well at all. Their location effective field goal percentage. So if the Mavericks went and shot league average at all those positions that they're all the places they're getting these shots, at the rim, mid-range shots, 3-point shots, they took into account, all right, what's the league average for 3-point shots? What's the league average for mid-range shots? What's the league average for shots at the rim? The Mavs would have effective field goal percentage of 54.5% if they were shooting league average. So they are shooting way worse at all those places. The Mavs would be ranked 19th in effective field goal percentage if they were just average at all the places, at all the spots that they're actually taking shots. The Mavs are 6th in the NBA in the amount of corner threes they've taken, as opposed to the amount of shots they're taking. So about 11% of their shot diet is from corner three. That's a shot that you want. The problem is they're not creating those shots for a Klay Thompson or even a Klay Thompson that's shooting well. They're creating those for, rookie Cooper Flagg, for Naji Marshall, for guys that are not historically really good three-point shooters. Anthony Davis, I think, has taken some. Max Christie has obviously taken some. Klay has obviously taken some. Sure, like good three-point shooters have, but the Mavs are creating a lot of threes and they are not hitting them. So that is something that Jason Kidd is right about. They are not hitting some of those shots. The other part of this, though, is the Mavs are 5th in the NBA in mid-range shots taken as a percentage of their shot diet. 34% of their shots are coming from the mid-range. This team does not have good enough mid-range shooters to be doing that, right? There are not enough good mid-range shooters, mid-range assassins for the Mavs to be doing that and feel really good about it. Some of the teams that do have their high percentage of shots from the mid-range, Sacramento, bad. Utah, not terrible, but bad. And they've got Larry Markin, and they got some others that can take shots. The Lakers, they have Luka and Austin Reeves, and Rui Hachimura takes mid-range jumpers. Like, they've got guys that can make those shots. Houston, Kevin Durant is on that team. Şengün is probably taking some of these shots. Like Jabari Parker. Oh my gosh, Jabari Smith is probably taking some of those shots. Obviously, you would expect those teams to have a high percentage of their shots from the mid-range, and then it's the Dallas Mavericks. So it's like some bad teams. Some teams with some elite players, and then the Mavericks, where they are. The Mavs are also taking 32% of their shots at the rim. That's 16th. That's not enough to make up for the other areas. And yes, they've been without some of their centers. They've played some games where they barely had any centers, and so I get that. The Mavs right now are 6th in the NBA in what Synergy Stats calls low percentage shots. So like a low percentage, meaning it's like a bad shot quality. 20% of their shots are bad shots, and they're 6th in the NBA. They're taking the 6th most bad shots in the NBA, which makes sense considering all those things I just laid out. And here's the bottom line with all of it. They are missing shots, but they're not creating good enough looks, and they haven't replaced any of these missed shots with offensive rebounding at all. You'd think that this big team coming in, we were like, all right, well, they're going to be this massive team. They're going to play like Houston did last year. Houston gobbles up all their offensive rebounds, and then that's how they scored. They scored in transition, which the Mavs are actually good at this year. The Rockets scored in transition, and they scored on offensive rebounds. And we're like, all right, well, maybe the Mavs can do the exact same thing the Rockets did last year because their team was kind of built similarly. The Mavs are not doing that at all. They're 29th in the NBA in offensive rebound percentage. 22% of their shots they're getting back. The Rockets are getting like 40% of their shots back, and they're still number one in the NBA. So the Mavs are not creating good enough looks. They're not hitting the looks that they are getting, and they are not replacing any of those missed looks with offensive rebounding or any kind of other way to get offense that is not just that. And so my big takeaway in going through all those numbers and all the things is that they are missing shots, but they just haven't created enough quality looks. And that's it. It is very simple. How did we get here? You could go all the way back to the Luka Doncic trade. You could. But I go back to, all right, once you knew Kyrie Irving was going to be out for the season, what kind of offense did they create? And they set this team up to create these kind of looks, to put them in this position that all of a sudden we're like, what are they even doing out there? Cooper Flagg was talking about, well, we finally looked organized in the 8th game of the season after playing 4 preseason games and the 8th game of, and 8 regular season games against bad teams. Like, we finally looked organized. This team did not come in with a cohesive enough plan that was going to put them in advantageous positions. And it was either the system or it's the players that have rotated. But we talked about that yesterday where they've rotated. They've tried different players. Jason Kidd has tried different lineups. He's tried a whole bunch of different ones. And there has not been an advantageous one besides the games that D'Angelo Russell plays well. The Mavs also just are not creating looks. That is the stat that I keep going back to. The Mavs are 26th in the NBA in field goal attempts per game. Like, just total, like, shots taken per game. They're 5th in the NBA in pace. A team that is that high in pace is never that low in the amount of shots they're actually taking. They're not creating looks. They're not creating quality looks. It's a failure across all fronts, and I think it's a coaching failure to me. I think that if you looked at your personnel, you had to come up with a better system than this. And I'm not here for, well, they don't have any point guards. Jason Kidd has said the thing like, hey, we're short on point guards. You knew that going into the season. There had to be an adjustment, and there just hasn't been. And that's, I think, one of the biggest issues of why we got here. There hasn't been an adjustment in terms of, all right, the personnel that I have and the personnel that we have right now, this is what we should do to make that adjustment. It's like, if Kyrie was here, then the offense would be great. We'd be creating high-quality looks. Yeah, that'd be awesome, but he's not, and you knew he wasn't going to be coming into the season. I bogged it down enough with enough numbers. Coming up, let's talk about some of the ways that this offense is different than last season, because there's one specific way that I've seen that this offense is different from last year, and it's a little obvious, but we'll talk about that and more. Locked On Mavs continues coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. Go check out DoorDash and see what is available for you. You can go right now and take advantage of their Dash Pass. You can see what they have all the time. You can get stuff delivered if you're watching some of these games, or if maybe you're sad after watching some of these games and you're like, I can't deal with this anymore. They've got this new bag drop right now. It's the official on-demand delivery platform for the NBA. That's DoorDash. And they're celebrating with something called the bag drop. Every time an NBA player scores 50, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. If you're going to be sad during the season, you might as well get a fan bag, right? We're talking player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, stuff you'll actually want. So next time somebody goes off for 50, use promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass, plus your shot at the bag drop that you're going to want to get. Dash Pass members only, 50% off up to $10 the next day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 and older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com. DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash in your bag all season long.
Explain yourself.
Sorry.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of what we call the Raccoon Squad, our listeners listening every single day. We appreciate you for checking out the show and listening. Check the QR code, different ways to follow the show. We've got bonus episodes going up all the time, so make sure you're subscribed. Let's get to 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. Can we get there? Can we get to 50,000 subscribers? All right. So we talked about how we got here. It's a terrible plan going into the season because of the personnel. The shots they're creating are not good enough. They're not creating enough looks. And I saw a bunch of people reply to, the stat the Mavs they're high in pace and low in field goal attempts per game. And they're like, well, it's the turnovers. The Mavs are average, like actually below average in turnovers. They're 18th in the NBA in turnovers per game, turnovers per 100, and turnover percentage. They're 18th in the NBA and all that. So it's not like they have this extreme amount of turnovers that is limiting them from getting shots. They're literally getting into some of these half-court sets on offense and not creating a shot out of it. Or just not creating shot looks, or not creating good looks, or not getting another. It's frustrating. Last year's offense compared to this year's offense. Obviously, the big thing off the top, isolation plays way down. The Mavs had this built-in system with Luka and Kyrie where it was like when everything breaks down, you had a guy to go to just make something happen. Last year, the 2024-25 season, which only had Luka till like Christmas, right? And had Kyrie here and there, and he obviously missed the end of the season too. 10% of the Mavericks plays were in isolation last year. They had a thing to go to. They had a thing where they can all right, everything's breaking down. We've got somebody, one of those two guys. Now only 5% of the Mavs plays from isolation are in isolation. Only 5% of their plays down from 10% last year. And obviously those plays are a lot worse. You're giving the ball to PJ Washington and saying, all right, you go make something happen. That's not a great plan. That's not PJ Washington's game. Giving the ball to D'Angelo Russell, that's a mixed bag. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's really bad. Giving the ball to Cooper Flagg, saying, all right, isolate for us. Sometimes that's good, and sometimes that's bad as the 18-year-old you would expect. Isolation plays way down, obviously. That's how one of the ways the offense is different. Another way is that miscellaneous plays are way up. They're up from 5% last year to 8% this year. To me, that is just the random, like Synergy looks at this and says, We don't know what happened on this play. We can't really put it in a category. It's not a spot up shot, not a transition shot. It's not a pick and roll ball handler taking a shot. It's not a handoff. It's not a cut. It's not a roll man getting the ball off a pick and roll. It's not isolation. It's not a post up. Like they're like, we don't know what this is. 8% of the Mavs plays are these miscellaneous plays. Now there could be ones that just couldn't be categorized, or the system, the synergy system doesn't get it right or whatever. But the Mavs miscellaneous plays being up is notable to me, that they are just having plays where nothing constructive happens. The Mavs also, obviously, going back to the isolation thing, their plays off of the pick and roll ball handlers went from very good last year. It's a synergy rating that the top is excellent, and it goes then excellent, very good, good, average, below average, and poor. That's how the rating goes for synergy. Pick and roll ball handlers, very good last year, obviously. So the second highest rating you can get. This year, poor, the bottom. The ball handlers off pick and rolls have been awful. And that's because they haven't played a point guard and because of the personnel on the team, right? And I think the screens haven't been good. I went through a lot of the game again last night, watching a bunch of Cooper Flagg plays for a bonus show I'm going to do a little later today. And like some of the screens are just not good either. It's just like some lackadaisical. We don't know what we're doing. We're not organized. So the isolation plays are down. The random miscellaneous plays that we don't know what's happening are up. The pick and roll ball handlers have been bad. Handoffs are up, which we would expect. Going into the season, we broke down like, all right, this is what the offense that they're trying to run. It makes sense, the offense that they're kind of trying to run. It's this Princeton motion offense. You kind of don't really need a point guard in it if you run it correctly. And so maybe the players are just not running it correctly. But it's a lot of motion. It's a lot of movement. It's a lot of players moving off the ball. And so there's going to be a lot of this. The talk was Anthony Davis is going to be this hub, and they're going to run him like he was Sabonis in Sacramento. Sabonis gets all these assists off of these handoffs. He has the ball. A ball handler runs around him. He hands the ball off to him, and he sets a screen real quick with his hip, or sets a real screen with that ball handler's defender. And you're like, all right, now you've created an advantage for that guy. Those plays are up. It was 5% last year. It's 7.3%. So it's almost 2.5 percentage points up from last year. They're getting more plays off handoffs, sure. But last year they were very good. This year they're average. So they went down 2 ratings. They've been doing more handoffs, but they haven't been good, which I don't think you'd be surprised by. Their spot up shots have been bad. We talked about their percentage of shooting at the top of the show. They're ranked poor. Spot up is the highest percentage of their plays. 23% of their plays come off of these spot up shots, which is catch and shoot, or just any kind of shot really that comes off of a pass. And they're poor. The worst rating on all those. The only thing that the Mavs are good at is one pick and roll, like the roll man. When the roll man gets the ball, which you'd expect. The Mavs have Gafford. The Mavs have Dwight Powell, who's historically been good. Yeah, obviously Anthony Davis, obviously Dereck Lively when they have played. 5% of their plays come out of the pick and roll man, and they've been very good out of that. We just haven't gotten a lot of that because there hasn't been as many pick and rolls with those guys. And in transition, 18% of the Mavs plays have come in transition, and they've been good. That's the one area that the Mavs have actually been good that that they have done over and over again, is they've been good in transition. But how did we get here? Answering again, the offense was set up in a terrible way. It is not set up for the Mavericks to succeed, and it's brutal to watch what they're creating right now because it's not working cohesively for anybody. And I don't think you can argue with me otherwise. Coming up, the predictions that we got terribly wrong. How do we get here? I had a prediction that's wrong already. 8 games into the season, just brutally wrong. I'll tell you what it was, and we'll get into that coming up. Locked On Mavs continues coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel. NBA is back. There's no better way to get in the action than FanDuel. Go check it out and see what you got going. They have all kinds of things on FanDuel. Mavs against the Grizzlies on Friday, if you're listening to this early enough. The Mavs are 4.5 point underdog on the road. Makes sense. So if you feel real confident the Mavs are going to win, there's the money line plus 156. You put $5 on that. If you win, you get $300 in bonus bets. So you can get that. If you're one of those people that are like, I need a happiness hedge. So you put the money on the other team. So if your team loses, then you feel all right about it because you won money. Put $5 on the Grizzlies money line. And if you're a new customer and you win, again, you get $300 plus the money that you win. $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Please gamble responsibly. Also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks daily fantasy made easy. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, Being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement on this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. All you have to do is go to PrizePicks, see if it's available in your area. You can play it in Texas. So for those that are like that zone out during these, you can play PrizePicks in Texas. So check that out. All you have to do is pick more or less on a bunch of different stats for players and pick a lineup. So right now for this Mavs Grizzlies game, they have Cooper Flagg, 17.5 points. I'm going to go more for Cooper Flagg right there. So there you go. I got that one. And then PJ Washington, 17.5 points. I'm going to go up for PJ Washington too. I could play that one if I just want to play those two guys. But let's go Max Christie, 12.5 points. I'm going to pick Max Christie. Let's go more for Max Christie on 12.5 points too. Let's say all three of them are going to go up because I think that's who's going to play. So right now I can play that. If you use the promo code LOCKEDONNBA, get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. So if I play that $5 lineup, I use the code LOCKEDONNBA. I get $50 in lineups after playing that one at PrizePicks. Again, prizepicks.com. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA. PrizePicks, it's good to be right.
I don't always tell you guys the truth.
All right, Isaac, let's get into some predictions. I talked about how bad the offense is. How do we get here? Why is the offense so bad? Went through a bunch of numbers. Hopefully made some sense. Well, let's get into why this team, some of the things that we got wrong. How do we get here? Where did we expect to be? One of the first things that I got terribly wrong. Remember during the preseason, we were talking about Anthony Davis's weight. And he came into camp overweight, and we were like, man, this is weird. This is so strange that this is happening to the Mavericks again, that the player that Nico Harrison brought in to avoid this very problem is happening. It's happening again. Anthony Davis did have the eye surgery over the offseason. He was not able to get in conditioning shape for whatever reason during that. I'm not his doctor, and neither is Jason Kidd.
I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
And so he was not able to get in the right condition. And I said, we'll never talk about Anthony Davis's weight after this week. That was a prediction that I made before the season. And that has been wrong because Anthony Davis looked slow. He looked so slow, even in the games that he played, that this is not just an injury issue for the Mavericks. This offense is not just a problem with, well, Anthony Davis is injured. Well, they don't have Lively. The Kyrie one, maybe, but you expected to not have Kyrie coming into the season. So Anthony Davis's weight, we did talk about again because he's looking slow. Isaac got one wrong already where he says, follow that formula and say, all right, well, I think the Mavericks are going to be a top 8 team in defensive rating. Then last year tells you they're going to have at least 48 wins and be a top 6 team in the West if they're top 8 in defense, because that's what happened last year. All the teams in the top of the West were in the top 8 defensively. And the Mavericks right now are 6th in the NBA in defense, and they're the worst team in the West because the offense is that bad. Last year, if you had a top 8 defense, you're competent enough as a team to be top 6 in the West. And this year, there is a team that is confounding everyone and 6th in the NBA in defense and 30th in the NBA in offense. And they're 2-6. Wild. Isaac made a prediction that the offense and play style will look completely different due to Jay Triano's inspired system built around Anthony Davis as a hub. I don't think he got that one wrong. I think that's right. The player movement, less isolation, more dribble handoffs and stuff. He got that right. There's more stuff on that. What I did here is we have this AI site that we use for all of our transcriptions for our shows. And I went through and I said, all right, give me every prediction we made before the season. And I went through some of these. And the Anthony Davis weight one hit me right in the face. I predicted Ryan Nembhard will get an early rotation minutes as the 10th man, and because they're going to need his passing, and that has not happened at all. Jason Kidd was like, he punted on point guards altogether. I did not expect that to happen. That is one reason why we got where we are. One thing I got wrong that actually has been positive is I predicted the Mavs will allow a high number of 3-point attempts as part of their defensive identity. The Mavs are actually number 1 in the NBA in the amount of threes their opponents take. Only 31% of opposing team shots have come from 3. League average is 38%. Utah is last, and they're allowing 45% of their opponent shots as threes. So that's a one I got. That's one I actually got right or one I got wrong in a good way. Here's a couple we got right, actually, right in a bad way. I said a couple weeks before the season that the Mavs offense will take some time to come together and incubate due to the new personnel style, but that Cooper Flagg is ahead of schedule will help accelerate that process. I was wrong about both those things. The Mavs, I was right about the Mavs offense taking a while, but I did not think that it would take this long. I did not think it would be this bad this early. I thought maybe we'd be looking at 25th in the NBA, and we're like, all right, can they get to 20th? Can they get to 18th? Can they get to just close to league average on offense? And they're just, they're nowhere close. I said league average is 115. The Mavs are at 104. Like 9 points off of that. That to get to, man, right now Detroit is league average. Portland is league average. Clippers. Cleveland is actually league average on offense right now. Isaac predicted Anthony Davis is going to shoot 36% on threes, and he has not played. I predicted Lively and Anthony Davis will both make an all-defensive team, and they are probably not going to play enough games to get there, at least if we're just taking what the beginning of the season has looked like. They could. I got one right that says D'Angelo Russell will start more games than Klay Thompson this season. I think that's going to end up being right. We've already seen that change. Now, I guess I could be wrong re-predicting my prediction, but I feel good about that one that all right, I think this is actually going to happen, that Russell's going to start more games than Klay Thompson through the season. I also predicted that Max Christie will have a breakout season and will eventually need to be a starter. He's going to be one of the best perimeter defenders and one of the best three-point shooters on the team by season's end. I was right about that within like 3 games. So I feel good about that one. Man, I said here's one I got really wrong. There's a world that the Mavs are like top 4 or 5 in the West, and the Mavs could be all the way up to 2 because of how the West can be so tight. And like Mountain's looking real bad right now. Mavs, Isaac said that he predicted the Mavs finish 6th in the NBA, and that's where he thought that they were. We had high hopes for the Mavericks. We had high hopes that they were going to make something out of this season, that they were going to be better, that the offense wouldn't be as bad as it is. But as I walked through at the beginning of this show, the Mavs offense is even worse than it kind of looks sometimes. If you look at some of the numbers, you're like, this just doesn't make any sense. They're the last in the NBA in offense by almost 2 whole points. 104 offensive rating. Washington has 106 offensive rating. Absolutely brutal for this Dallas Mavericks team, and a brutal watch right now. But hey, stick with us. Locked On Mavs. We'll be doing more. I'm going to break down Cooper Flagg's game a little bit later today. And so stick with us and listen to that show as well. Check the links in the description, QR code for different ways to follow the show. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.